Well, I did not see this one coming with the St. Louis Blues offering offer sheets to Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway this morning. I'm going to talk about what this means coming up here on Locked on Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about my St. Louis Blues, your St. Louis Blues, our St. Louis Blues. Well, I did not have this episode planned today whatsoever, but this morning, the St. Louis Blues signed Edmonton Oilers players Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway to offer sheets. I'm going to discuss what this means. I'm going to break down the offer sheets. I'm going to break down each player and how they could potentially fit in the St. Louis Blues lineup. We have a lot to get into. I am still very surprised that this all went down and involves, yes, the Pittsburgh Penguins as well. So I'm sure I'll be doing a collab with Locked On Penguins soon. But I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Wow. So I just want to say this. I knew Doug Armstrong all along was going to make a move. Doug did talk about how he wanted to make a move with some potential restricted free agents. I also believe that Doug Armstrong wasn't done yet, proving to everybody that he is still a very capable general manager. We all know Steiner's going to take over soon enough in a couple of seasons, so I am not surprised that Doug wants to get this team back on track. But I'm going to break down everything. I was doing tons of research because, at least for me, I saw these offer sheets and I'm like, there's no way Edmonton can match that, right? But then a part of me thought, okay, well, if the Blues are going to get both of the players, Broberg and Holloway, this changes everything about the season. And I honestly cannot believe that this is happening for St. Louis. So let's go talk about it. So the Blues, and by the way, I just want to also give a shout out to Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, who does a fantastic job. So many of the Blues beat reporters did a fabulous job covering it this morning. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them. But basically, the Blues offered sheets to the Edmonton Oilers defenseman Philip Broberg and forward Dylan Holloway this morning. Edmonton will have exactly 1 week, 7 days to match the offer. If not, the players will become members of the St. Louis Blues. So that's basically how it's going to happen. The whole entire time, when I was thinking about this upcoming season, I thought they need to add some stars, and I just cannot believe that this might happen. I really can't believe it. So anywho, let's go continue discussing about what happened. Okay. Let's talk about the Oilers. They are about $400,000 over in the NHL's $88 million cap for this upcoming season. So again, that's why I said the whole time, I don't know how the Blues were going to be the Oilers were going to be able to counter the Blues' offer. Anyway, the offer to Broberg is for a 2-year contract at $4.5 per year. That is the maximum offer that would require a second-round draft pick as compensation, according to the league's collective bargaining agreement. Okay. The offer of Holloway is for a 2-year contract. It is about 2.2 per year. The maximum offer that is required for a third-round draft pick. Okay. The Blues traded with the Pittsburgh Penguins to acquire the necessary draft picks to facilitate this deal with Edmonton. Okay. So the Blues received a second-round pick in the 2025 and a fifth-round pick in the 2026 for a second-round pick in 2026 and a third-round pick in 2025. So that is basically what happened this morning around 9:30 a.m. Eastern time and 8:30 a.m. Central time. So yes, the Blues basically did get back their draft pick. So I think this is actually insanity. I think that Edmonton is going to have a really, really hard time being able to match what was offered from the St. Louis Blues. And I'll talk about, these players, and I'll talk about, what this could mean for St. Louis going forward. But that is basically breaking down the offer. And the Penguins being involved, honestly, to me is just so funny because we've had obviously involvements with the Penguins, this season as it is. But that 2025 second rounder that the Blues got originally belonged to the Blues, okay? In late June, they used that draft pick, okay, when it came to getting rid of Kevin Hayes. Like, the whole thing is crazy. So essentially, the Blues took back the draft pick that they gave, and then they used that to make a qualifying offer to Edmonton. Like, that's insane, right? Oh my goodness. You have to just think about what this means for Edmonton. This means that they probably cannot afford it because they have players that they're paying really high amounts, like a Connor McDavid, Draisaitl, and respectively so. But what does this mean for the Blues? It means that they have 7 days before this becomes official. But I have to say, Doug is cooking, and I am so proud of Dougie A. I think that Doug Armstrong is a very smart general manager. I think that he knows what he is doing. And again, it just goes to show that Doug Armstrong, he kind of stuck to his plan. He did kind of hint that this would be happening, and he was able to really, live up to his words that he used. There's no comment right now about the Oilers and a decision if they made one or not. Obviously, they have those 7 days. So, again, some more literature. So, basically, if Edmonton should choose to decline the right of first refusal, the Blues have completed a trade with the Pittsburgh Penguins to reacquire their second round pick in 2025 and acquire Pittsburgh's fifth round selection 2026. The Penguins will receive St. Louis's second round pick in 2026 and Ottawa's 2025. Like, it's insane. It's actually insane. Now, I will get into each player individually and why there is one player in particular that I am more excited about. But the Blues are up to something special. I think everybody in the NHL really underestimated St. Louis, and they really said, the Blues, they haven't done much this offseason. That was me, and I'll own up to that. I will be forthcoming, and I will say I was very disappointed with the Blues this offseason. I like some of the moves that they made. I like Foxa. I like some of the moves that they did make, okay? I like Suter, but I wasn't satisfied. I will admit that. I will admit that I really was difficult and hard on the Blues. Justin, I see your comments, and that's why I am live, because we're having an open and honest conversation. He says, I don't understand why you're saying that Armstrong is a smart GM, but a week ago you said he didn't know where the team is going. And Justin, I feel like I just explained that. I didn't feel like the Blues made enough significant moves this offseason to get them to be a playoff contending team. However, it is not the end of the offseason, and I doubted that Doug Armstrong could get some more things done. And I can admit, I, Haley T. Simon, was wrong. I was wrong in doubting Doug Armstrong as a GM. I am difficult on Doug Armstrong because I want the Blues to make it to the playoffs and not miss 3 consecutive playoffs, okay? I don't want that to happen. However, it is now August 13th. And I can say Doug Armstrong is a very smart GM who I underestimated, wrongfully so. The Blues did a lot this offseason, and there is no doubting that. I like the Joseph brothers, right? Especially P.O. I like Suter. I think he's a good veteran leader in defense. I like Foxa. I like what they did with Texier. Here's the thing. I said they just needed to add some more, and the defense still concerned me. But here's the thing, and this is coming from a Blues fan's perspective. If this trade pans out and the Oilers don't do anything, then I have to say this was probably the most surprising offseason the Blues have had in a long time, because they got the job done, the job that they needed to get done and the job that they got done will make them a playoff contending team. I'm going to break down Philip Broberg, and then I'm going to break down Dylan Holloway coming up. We have a lot to discuss about these two players and what if it does work out and these two players become St. Louis Blues within a week, which is so crazy to think about. But hey, listen, offer sheets, it makes for some interesting offseason talk. But I want to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel first. I love sports. I love them so much, and I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster or bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So let's go talk about Philip. I know you're probably thinking, Hale, how are these players going to fit into the St. Louis Blues team? And I can tell you, Philip is who I am most excited about. Dylan, who has been on this podcast before, we do a lot of collaboration. We really were excited about this one. We message each other and we were like, oh my goodness, did you see what happened? Because we are both big fans of Dylan. And Broberg is only 23 years old and he stands at 6'4". Okay. He is 212 pounds with a left shot. Okay. Obviously, what makes me most excited about him is that he was the number 8th pick in 2019, and he has played 81 NHL games. And the thing about him that makes me excited too is that he played 10 playoff games with the Oilers last season, leading up to that Stanley Cup final. So, why am I excited about that? I absolutely love that he has playoff experience, and I think that is something that just makes me even more excited. Obviously, when you're the 8th overall pick in a draft class, that means that you're a pretty good player. And at 23 years old, he's still young. He shoots with his left. And that means that you could probably put him on the second line. And that's what I was concerned about. Remember when I said that, I was a little bit uneasy about the Blues' defense, not the first pair, but the second pair. That's where I was a little bit uneasy about. So here's the thing. I have a lot of high hopes for the St. Louis Blues. I do. But I also feel like potentially adding Broberg could elevate the defense. And that is why Doug Armstrong is so, so smart because he does have such great defensive skills. Okay. There is no doubt in my mind that he isn't going to flourish here in St. Louis. And, a 2-year contract, I know that that's what, basically the maximum was. And I get that it's a little bit confusing. I'm confused too. Like, if you want me to be honest, like this whole thing is actually insane. But I do feel like Broberg would fit in really well with our defense, especially, when you take a look back at our, past season and just the elevation that he could bring. It's something that I'm really excited about. And it's something that I think will be very beneficial. I like how big of a player he is. Again, that is something that I've talked about too. And the nice thing about him too is that he is a great two-way defenseman, and he has such good skating abilities, which again really stands out to me. He knows where the puck is on the ice at all time. He's able to read plays, and here's the thing: decision making it always could be a little bit better, and that is one thing I noticed when I did look back at clips of him playing before. Sometimes it just looked a little bit slower, right? But I do think, however, that he is one of the best, skaters in a sense, not of all time, but one of the best skaters in a sense that you could really pick up this offseason. I feel like he does have a lot of intelligence. And, at the end of the day, I understand that there might be a little bit of like, what is going on here? Is he really that worth it? And the honest answer, if you want to be completely upfront and frank with you, yeah, I do. Okay. I really, really do. And, you can say to me all you want, oh, well, he hasn't played that many games. He is still young. And I love that he had that AHL experience. I don't think people really understand how pivotal and important having AHL experience is and not just being thrown into the NHL. It allows you to get really familiar with, especially for instance, with Edmonton. It was able to get familiar with that system. So I like it. Honestly, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I think at the end of the day, this is something that just really excites me. I mean, you want to take a back look at last season. I mean, last season, yeah, while the playoff run was exciting, and I get all that, um, you just have to take for a look how it is, right? The last game he did play was, well, I feel bad for Edmonton, but it was kind of like when they lost, but still. But anywho, I am just really excited about this, and it just kind of makes a lot of sense. And here's the thing: a left-handed defenseman is what the Blues needed, right? Right. And when you really take a look at what this guy, I'm about to say kid, and I don't want to say that, but when you look about what he can give you, it is everything that the Blues need. We talk about how great Colton Parayko is, right? We we need another star on defense, okay? You know how I feel about Torrey Krug, and I hate that he's hurt. Okay. You know how much I love some of our defensemen. I do. I just did a whole episode on Nick Leddy. I just feel like we needed to get another really strong defenseman. And here's the thing. And I love this comment from Justin. I'm going to show this. The Blues also don't have a Connor McDavid. We have a Robert Thomas, and I love my boy Robbie Thomas, but McDavid carries Edmonton. Let's hope Broberg can shine in more of a spotlight role. And that is what I am saying. We have Robert Thomas, who is our star, underrated and our star. But having Broberg here would help significantly. I think that he would really improve the defense. He'd be really good on the PK. The thing is, and I'm going to keep on reiterating it, the Blues needed this. They did. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I was going to do an episode today of what if the Blues don't make the playoffs? That was my episode. Because that is how unconfident I was before all this news broke. But I do have concerns, but again, I'm always going to have concerns. But I want to talk about Dylan Holloway. However, I just want to give a little plug to this podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube at Locked On Blues. I love giving you all my St. Louis Blues knowledge, information, chit chat, and more. And I'm going to do some e-begging right now. Watch the videos, interact with the videos. I love talking about the Blues. The Blues are my team. And, I think that having this connection with you, talking to you every single day, I am 5 days a week here on this podcast, is one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my personal life. So I hope that you can join along with the season. So make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and I'm done my e-begging. E-begging is a crazy word, but that's how it was. All right, let's go talk about Holloway, because I did talk about Broberg for a little bit, but Dylan Holloway also is another important player that I do want to talk about. That I don't want to say he's like underrated in what's going on right now, but he definitely isn't being talked about as much, which is, again, it's okay, because I think Broberg is just the better of the two. But at the same time, I'm gonna, I'm just gonna continue on. So I don't disrespect any players. Holloway is 22 years old and has played in 89 games for the Oilers since entering the league in 2022-2023 as, again, a first-round pick. He was 14th overall in the 2020 NHL draft, so the draft class right after Broberg. He had 9 goals and 9 assists during those 2 seasons. He is originally actually from Calgary, Alberta, and he went to the University of Wisconsin. And I just want to say that that is a great program, so I wanted to include that in there. He has played in 26 career playoff games, including 25 during Edmonton's journey to the 2024 Stanley Cup Final, which he contributed 5 goals and 2 assists. So, again, is he, and here's the thing, is he the best player on the Oilers? No, not at all. But it's so hard when you have some of the league's biggest superstars on that team to realistically say that he is one of their top players. You can't do that on a team with Edmonton where you have so many generational talented players on that team. However, he can add a good amount of depth. I mean, I've talked about, this third line. I mean, I kind of like our second line, but the third line maybe even put him in second. But he would add depth to the St. Louis Blues in, either of those senses. And I do believe that the more talent you have isn't a bad thing, by the way. And yeah, maybe some guys that we grew to love won't be playing as many minutes. Maybe they will be healthy scratch time to time. But if it's for better talent, then you have to go for it. The St. Louis Blues cannot afford to not be in the playoffs this season. They need to be a competitive team. I do feel like the Oilers are not going to be able to do anything. Here's my concern. Ready? What if the Oilers only are able to match Broberg and not Holloway? Meaning we get Holloway, which again, valid, fine, happy still. But then we lose our guy on defense. We can't do that. So I know the Blues gave out, obviously, the most that they could give out due to NHL rules. And I get that. Like, that's literally like something that you can't go over. However, I do feel like adding these players is just going to improve the roster. But is there one player you would prefer over another? And I'm asking you live right now because I am curious about what you have to think. Oh my gosh, it is darkness. Hello, how are you? Welcome back to Lockdown Blues. Getting 2 former first round picks for a second and third if Edmonton doesn't match is worth it for the retool. I agree. And that's the thing. It is actually insane what the Blues are able to get out of all this. So I love that. Zach says, "Hey, Haley Taylor Simon, what is up, Zach? What is the best way to access the Blues this year?" I'll tell you all the ways when we get closer to the season. I am pretty sure Bally Sports is free online. Broberg, Justin Scott said, is too expensive for Edmonton. I agree, but again, you never know what teams are willing to do. I'm sure the Oilers are thinking of something right now, right? They have to be kind of thinking of like, what they can do. I doubt they're just like, oh, well, can't do anything about it now. I am sure they're thinking of something. Do you think Edmonton is surprised about this? I feel like if I were Edmonton, I would be shocked. Like, wow, this came out of left field, but I feel like Dougie A knew what he was doing. It is actually craziness what is happening in the National Hockey League right now. Darkness also said, important to know that Edmonton's already $7 million over the cap space, which means they have to make a move within the week. Yeah, so I did talk about that earlier in the episode about how Edmonton is like a lot over. I believe it's 7.7 million. It's something like that. Their hands are kind of tied. So that's why every time I get a notification on my phone, and that's why I waited a little bit to film this because I wanted to see if Edmonton was going to do anything. Could you imagine if I stopped filming and then all of a sudden Edmonton did something? That'd be so on brand. But they really have to make a move happen ASAP or they can't do anything. And you know what? That's okay with me. Like, don't do anything. Let us have the guys. I am so excited about this, especially for the Blues' defense, especially for the depth of this team. I know offer sheets are crazy. It's something I feel like we haven't really seen in a while. But I mean, it's smart, right? You're making really good offers to sign some good players. So, for me, I'm personally excited. Justin, I understand you might disagree with some of my opinions here in this podcast, but not everyone's gonna have the same opinion about Doug Armstrong. I'm gonna put the comment up here. And, Blues fans have a right to feel frustrated with how, this offseason has been, this past offseason, even last offseason, and you don't have to agree with it. I'm having my opinions. I've always stated that. I will apologize when I'm wrong and I will brag when I am right. But fans are allowed to feel like Doug Armstrong hasn't done much when the reality is last offseason he didn't do anything. So I think that the fans right now that you're seeing maybe expressing, more excitement, it is because they have been waiting for this moment, right? Um Yes, and this is something I talked about, especially with Dvorsky, who is one of my favorite prospects that we have right now, who I'm hoping makes the final roster, by the way, because that's my boy, and I'm really excited for what he can bring to the offense. But anywho, the Blues, they have a great, great, great amount of prospects that, again, I talked about this in last week's episode, that we are expecting to see play for the Blues maybe next season. I talked about Otto. Like, I talked about so many of our guys. So all I'm saying is this. This is huge. This is smart. This is such a good sign for the St. Louis Blues. Honestly, the Central Division is a competitive division and they have to be on top of their game if they even want to make a wild card spot. Um, Another question is, who do you think makes the opening lineup if we get one or both of these players? So I definitely think they're both going to make the lineup. Again, I mentioned this before. I feel like Broberg would be in the second pair, and I feel like Holloway might be a third liner, maybe fourth. But again, I will do a whole episode on my projected lineups again. I just did one last week. I'll redo another one. I wanted to get this episode out here today as fast as I possibly could because first off, I'm excited about this. Okay. And secondly, I feel like things are finally going in the right direction for the St. Louis Blues. I love offer sheets. This is fun. This is fun off-season August hockey talk. 1 week. What will happen will be less than a week. Like, that's like the thing. Like, they could literally decline it and it could happen. But they have 7 days to make a decision. And by them, I mean Edmonton. And if not, well, welcome to St. Louis, I guess, right? We have the best hockey city here in St. Louis, and you guys are truly the best fans in the National Hockey League. And I love doing this podcast. I cannot wait to talk more about what this means. I cannot wait for this to become official. Okay. I'm getting a little too excited. Okay. It's still not set in stone, but this is a very good sign. I do daily episodes here on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, watch your podcast, always talking about the St. Louis Blues here on Locked On Blues. And I hope you will join me tomorrow for another episode talking more about all this exciting news. Until then, like I always say, let's go Blues.